Mother! Hello, Mother! Your son is dying! No, don't hang up! Your son is dying! You already knew your son is dying! Hello, Soho Gallery bullshit! Hello, Art Magazine covercraft! Hello, trendy East Villagers with rich parents! Your friend, your artist is dying! Where are you now? Where are you now? Hello! Hello! Hello, rock and roll! You used his imagery for your AIDS tour, and when he went to the concert, the only thing Bono could say was, "Pray with me! Pray with me!" Yeah, I'd like to see Bono on Medicaid! Hello! Hello! Hello, ambulance! Today, one of your clients' IV came out, and you could give a shit. And when I said, "Let's get this man to the hospital," the only thing you could say was, "I don't know the way to the hospital." Hello! Hello! Hello, emergency! Don't bother helping anyone who's sick. Don't bother helping someone who's suffering. He's gonna die anyway. He's a leper anyway. Hello! Hello! Hello, admitting someone's puking and bleeding in your mauve room. Someone's puking and bleeding on your mauve room. There's no one to admit him. There's no one to admit him. Hello! Hello! Hello, hospital! Someone needs a wheelchair. Ain't got one. Someone needs a bed. Ain't got one. Someone needs a blanket. Ain't got one. Someone needs a towel to dry off the cake blood. Oh, just throw him. Oh, just throw him a box of dirty rags. Hello. Hello. Hello, society. No answer. Hello. Hello. Hello, America. No answer. He's going home. He's going home. He's going home, you say. We aren't having a going away party. We aren't having a last farewell. His leaving requires no gifts for us to buy. Inside we know this is no au revoir, no bon voyage, no get well card. It's a slow, uneven, painful passing. Back to parents in Iowa, back to parents in Georgia, back to parents in Idaho, back to parents in Timbuktu. No, I have never met your parents. No, I have never met your mother. No, I have never been to your childhood home, back home to drapes and homemade wine, back to a room of cowboys, fire engines, and twin beds. Never gonna share your bed ever again. I can smell the maple bedpost. I can feel the chocolate brown chenille bedspread. I can hear the clink-clank of wire hangers with the name of the neighborhood cleaners. I can see the bathroom with papered yellow daffodils with a wastebasket that has rust stains on the bottom. I can see the china cabinet with your first palm print clay ashtray. I can see the kitchen with the TV set on. The kitchen, the cake mixes, and the stove, but Johnny's not on anymore. Johnny's not on anymore. No more comfort. Don't you realize we don't want anything new? Everything's changing so fast. I don't want my parents to take care of me, he said. I always thought I'd be taking care of my parents, you'd said. Sure, we'll be visiting you in Iowa, Idaho, Georgia, Timbuktu. Inside we know we never will, but pretending helps in times like these. These are mean times. I can't explain what I mean or mean what I say. I can't be there all the time, for I'm there all the time. This is the age of reverse. When I see Rodney King beaten and the police go free as if nothing happened, when I hear Patricia Bowman testify and William Kennedy Smith becomes a doctor as if nothing happened, when I've experienced Anita Hill's life and Clarence Thomas becomes a Supreme Court judge as if nothing happened, when I heard Nicole Brown's call to 911 and OJ still worked for NBC and Hertz and nothing ever happened, when I had so much hope for Clinton's policies and then he reversed it on Bosnia, Haiti, gays in the military, the decency language, nothing ever happens. The Senate, the police, the medical institutions, I got your image on my back. I'm so tired of well-meaning people. After she was raped, she took all of her paintings and underwear and clothing and sheets and burned them. She burned them in a garbage can in an alley somewhere between Lunt and Greenleaf Street near the train so she could scream as the train passed. Don't tell me that you're doing this to yourself. Don't tell me that you're doing this looting and burning to yourself. America only responds with violence. America only responds to violence. I got my purse, but it ain't got any money. I make 63 cents to your dollars. I got my makeup, 'cause I gotta hide who I am. You only want me to speak from a mouth that is kissable. I got my perfume, because a woman must keep her smells to herself. I got my gloves. I got my nylons on straight to keep me in position as flower, as animal. I got my high heels on to have my walk shortened, to have my butt up in the air, so I'm like your pony. I'm like your porky. Call her a dog, meaning you'll fuck her only if there's nothing else around. Call her a cat if she doesn't speak except purrs when spoken to. Call her a pussy. Her genitalia must be an animal. Call her a fox when she knows how to wear her makeup. Call her a cow when she has children and takes care of them well. Call her a bitch, a female dog. Call her a cold fish when she doesn't want to get hurt and keeps her feelings to herself. Call her a bird. Lady Bird, don't worry, she'll never be president. Call her a bull dyke. Don't you get it? She doesn't need you. I want last names to change to Mary's daughter, Vicky's daughter, no more Johnson, Peterson, Wilson. I want David Letterman to change his name to David Letter Lady in honor of Vanna White. I want all these talk shows to at least give us an all-girl band. I want Paul Schaefer to become Paula Schaefer. I want it to change. I'm so sick. I'm so sick of these well-meaning people. Last month, he tried to commit suicide, but he just didn't have the money for a gun. So I called as soon as they had discovered the suicide note. Shock, grief, and despair. Even though he served his country well, he's thrown into some public hospital treated like crap. Last month, my brother tells me that he's not going to have any children because he just can't get any more insurance. He's been turned down for health insurance. And he just couldn't take it, he said, if anything ever happened to him. So when I saw Bush in Japan puking after he fell on the floor and everyone rushes to him to pick him up to his feet, I just said to myself, just leave him there. Just leave him there. Just leave him there. No one's picking up my friend who's been puking his guts out for 8 months. I'm so tired. I'm just so tired of well-meaning people. When I walked into your room, the look on your face, when I took your arm and led you down the stairs, there was blood every place. When I walked you into the hospital, they left you alone. Jesus Christ, where are you? Can't cancer runs in some families. Ooh, not in mine. We died too young. Heart disease runs in some families. Oh, not in mine. Depression and mania. 2 brief lives. Some people think I work too hard and do too much. But see, I can't sleep at nights. The terrors of the other side might be there in my body. In my body sleeps the ghost of suicide, of crazy, of out of mind. I held her in my arms. Her positive tears soaked the sheets. Even though she has money, she will be leaving us soon. She will be leaving us soon. She will be leaving us soon. Her children, she will leave us. Her children, she will leave us. She will be leaving us soon. She will be leaving us soon. Last Sunday, we drove our rent-a-van down Sunset Boulevard to a yard sale. I was immediately attracted to the dozens of springolators and variety of pastels, stripper shoes. As I was squeezing my big foot into an 8.5, I heard a scream and a piercing yelp, a sound we had never heard before. Behind me, I saw the dog, young and gray and bearded, lying in the street, urine coming out of its holes. The owner, a young woman with hair the color of August prairies, was on the corner heaving in groans and pain and despair. I held the dog, eyes bobbing up and down in pain for 10 seconds, and then it was over. Stroked the gray animal with her piss streaming down my toes, evaporating in the arid southwest air before it hit the curb. Michael picked up the animal from the street and laid it to rest on the grass. At the same time, the driver who hit the dog returned to the scene in his oversized, shiny black truck with raised tires, screaming, "That's what you get for not keeping your dog on a leash. Yeah, you just killed the woman's dog, asshole. Now complete the job and make her feel guilt, terminally responsible. I hate people who must blame the victim, who has to have a reason to blame on everything. Like everyone is accountable for whatever happens to them. Like karma. Karma was invented to keep the miserable in a position of acceptance and not rebel." The dog was covered with a yellow sheet, and the owner tried in vain to be adult and in control. She kept asking what she should do with the dog, twisting at the leash. But Sunset Boulevard is not a street of answers. It's a place of dreams. Customers at the yard sale continued purchasing, and Michael would tell the people that a good buy was not hiding under the sheet. But most bargain hunters wouldn't let a story of a dead dog stop them from peeking and believing we were hiding some rare find. The owner started to walk away. She began crossing the street in the same puppy fashion as her pet. I thought she looked like Mary Pickford, smelled like fresh laundry drying out on the line. Shock does different things to different people, and I just didn't want anything to happen to her. I walked her to her apartment, but she wasn't accepting kindness from strangers. I was merely an arm, a hand. We approached her building. A woman was washing a 1970 Scamp on the street. She let go of my hand and cried out, "Dellie's dead! Dellie's dead!" And they both embraced and held each other in their grief. And in their grief they forgot the danger of 2 women lovers embracing beyond the allowable time reserved only for heterosexuals. And within seconds cars sneered as the 2 women were public with their sadness, but held together in their devotion. Hostile, angry remarks were made to the women. "Perverts, kinks, ugly broads. If I was your man, I'd force you both to enjoy cock." I crept away. I wished I was bigger and could run after the meanies, but I was too slow. Only human, only a woman. Michael and I stood watch by the shrouded pet so passerbys to the yard sale wouldn't step on the animal or take a peek to see if it was a good buy. Soon the pair returned and carried the departed animal away with snickers and remarks from the cruel humans. "People like that shouldn't have a dog. Homosexuals shouldn't teach our children, and they shouldn't own pets, and that goes for lesbians, too." Michael thought we should leave, but I had this overwhelming urge to buy an orange sweater. There seemed to be so much past comfort in the sweater, even with its wad of Kleenex in the pocket. I needed this sweater. Later, as I tried on the orange sweater, I cleaned out the pockets, and to my surprise, the Kleenex was merely covering a small maroon and ice-pink satin bag, tightly tied. Insides were keepsakes, a palm tree charm with a hot pink stone for a coconut. A charm is the state of New York. Earrings of crescent moons made of milky stones like a smoke in a hot-lit room. 6 rings, one in emerald with pearls, another of thin garnets and diamonds, and assorted rings of luccites and strange metals. 2 wedding bands, probably her parents, dated 1911. Freshwater pearls as a cupid, with matching earrings. 3 gold coins dating from 1858. 1861 and 1901, and in the bottom, rolled in yellow tissue, was a pin of a woman with a sapphire in her hands, highlighting the female genitals, and a thick-banded gold ring. Both were inscribed in French and read, "To my Vivian, with love, always, Florence, 1943. Why don't you start at the beginning?
You mean Adam and Eve?
You said it, not me.
All right, I'll start at the beginning. Adam. The snake was his dick, the apple's his balls, so don't blame Eve.
Why don't you tell me about God?
Well, you should know about God because God is in your image. The image of man. God is in your image.
So you have a problem with God?
Yeah, you could say I've got a problem with God. Yeah, you could say I've got a problem with God, but I've got my own gods, my own goddesses, my own religious beliefs.
Why don't you tell me about your religious beliefs?
Well, first I've got my fertility symbols. I've got my fertility Playtex bra. I've got my fertility support hose. And I've got my fertility bunions from those 3-inch spikes. Yeah, I wore those heels to keep my job. And I've got my bottle of fertility peroxide, and I keep my nails long so I can claw at the devil.
So what you're saying is that you don't like being defined by your body, and you want other opportunities besides biological opportunities. Well, have you ever considered the imprisonment of the male and his role as provider, the punisher, his role as daddy paycheck?
Gee, Doc, I suspect some hostility in your tone. If you feel so imprisoned, here's the apron strings now. You make the beds and vacuum the carpets for 10 years, and you tell me about your gender liberation. I don't need to justify myself to you. Because you don't get it. You don't understand because you've got the power. You got the hope. You got the dick. I could never grow up wishing to be president. I could only grow up wishing to be the president's lady and not get paid, even if I was redoing the entire healthcare system.
You're just angry because you feel like you've never existed in history.
Don't look at me with your perverted sense of understanding. Don't talk to me with your pathetic overshaved purring, because you make me more determined than ever that there's nothing worse than a liberal shrink.
You're just angry because you feel like you've never had a career.
Here's my resume, doctor. I've had 3 children, 2 miscarriages, and 1 abortion. I've been a mother, a whore, and a slave. I've been needed, rejected, but never valued by anyone.
How's your drinking?
You just don't get it, do you? You just don't get it. You see Kitty Dukakis. You've seen Betty Ford. Drunk. Why? Because they were bored. They were bored. The carpool just didn't shake it. The ironing board as an art form just didn't make it. Say something. Say something. What do you want me to say? Well, this whole setup is that I've got something wrong and you've got something right. Well, I see it that I've got something right and you've got something wrong.
Well, why don't you tell me about myself then?
Well, you feel very uncomfortable around competitive sports, especially around football. You like to say it's because you're a sensitive male, but that's not it at all. There were perhaps beatings, none severe, but one did give you an erection. And you fantasize about being with older women, with fleshy, sagging breasts, with skin wrinkled by the sun, in a tight red cocktail dress. I'm shaking you up, aren't I?
Actually, I wasn't beaten. I was neglected. My father had Parkinson's disease.
Oh, so that's why you feel uncomfortable around sports. It's because you don't want to play sports because you feel like you're castrated by your father's illness.
Let's get back to your problems. You're soon going to be divorced, and we have to find you things to do with your life. You're going to be raising the children alone. Let's get back to your life. Let's not talk about politics. Let's not talk about religion, since women don't play any important role in those areas. Let's just discuss your management talents, good old ways and means.
Doctor, have you ever had a dog that whenever the broom came out, this dog would cry and cry whenever it saw the broom? And you see, you are the new owner to this dog. And the dog, even though you give the dog love and respect, this dog still cries and cries whenever it sees the broom. Doctor, I'm that dog.
So whenever you see a broom, you see an erect penis.
Doctor, you might have your erect penis, but a woman's got her feminine instinct.
Are you wearing a bra today?
No, I'm not wearing a bra today. In fact, I'm not wearing anything today, thank you.
You have a choice in your appearance. By not wearing a bra, you're saying you want me. By not wearing anything, you say that you desire me, that you want me.
Women are tired of defending the presentation of their bodies. Women are tired of having their bodies looked at as a loaded gun.
Why don't you tell me about your sexual fantasies? Have you ever been raped? Have you ever had sex with animals?
Gee, Doc, what do you do in your spare time?
Aunt Enid had been patiently waiting for us to visit for at least 10 years. That's when she had been given a bottle of 40-year-old scotch that she finally opened upon our arrival. The scotch had been given to her wrapped in a beautiful gold-foiled box, and she always feather-dusted the container with attention. Aunt Enid did not know exactly who she was waiting for, but she always felt that she would know them when she would see them. Her life was one that she would always see people suffer. Her sister Lily was left to die by her brother-in-law, Lou, who didn't believe in doctors except for himself. When Lily gave birth to twin girls, Lou was mad because twin boys would have brought home better paychecks. It was then that Enid had a yearning, an uncanny feeling that came between her ribs, her gut, and her heart. It was a feeling that swam inside her. When Lily died, Enid held her in her arms. She cut pieces of her dead sister's nightgown and bedclothes. What Enid began that night was the suffering quilt. It was a fabric put together from people who suffered unnecessarily. She would embroider names, stories, and emblems on each patch. After that night, Enid would never return to church. It came by coincidence, our visit to Enid's. She was waiting for us because she knew that eventually someone would arrive who would appreciate her suffering quilt. She last showed it some 15 years ago to her women's group, but the viewing was dismissed as some madcap folly. Enid realized that neither family nor friends would ever appreciate the art, and so she would have to set out in a different way of communicating. Enid's first thought was to use nature. She would gather turquoise sequins and throw them to the wind. She walked up Superstition Mountain and threw them in the air. Then she began to feed the birds with a special rosemary toasted bread. These were like her quilt, small gestures that made the world better. Enid started going to the library and looking in old phone directories for names and street addresses she liked. She would write, "It's the small things in life that matter." She was going through a 1959 phone directory from Chicago, Illinois, when she came upon the address of 777 Bittersweet Place and the name of devoted heart who lived there. Enid took off her gloves and knew that this was the person to see her quilt. She wrote down the address in her notebook and placed it in her purse that had a tapestry image of the Eiffel Tower woven on its front. Her first message to devoted heart would be simple but substantial. It would be a list of the towns and villages along Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania: Belafonte, Woodland, Snowshoe, Altoona, Lock Haven, Lamar, Loganton, Mile Run, Mountaintop, Marshall's Creek, Light Street, Milford, Dubois, Clarion, Mercer, Buckhorn, Bloomsburg, Shawnee, Hickory Run, Scrubgrass, White Deer, and Lake Harmony.
She couldn't drive by car anymore. It wasn't the cost of oil. It wasn't the driving. It was roadkill. As a child, she was told to stop crying when the car ran into the doe. The mother was crossing the road with her new fawn. Spindly legs and all. Baseball was on. A home run score. No one heard my cries when I saw the mother and child in the road. Later, Daddy would say, "Dead fox just outside of Milton, approaching Bloomsburg." Would say, "Wish it was a man, dear, we hit. Wish it was a buck. Then we'd have us some horns." From then on, I learned my first lesson in economics. Even a male dead is worth something. When our car hit the mother, her hind leg was torn off immediately by the wheels. For a moment, that leg stayed at the window of the passenger side with the blood and warm flush stuck to the window. Never liked anything warm and wet from then on. Funny how memories are. That same year it happened all over again. I can't remember why we were in our car. I had my dolly, though, and I remembered seeing the mass of doe and how impressive she was. She was running along the thicket, and then I screamed for a child had bolted out into the road, but it was too late, too quick. My daddy always drove with a heavy foot. And the young body crushed against the windshield. Even though it was small, it still upset the view from my father's driving so he could barely move. And the mother called from behind and charged the car, and my father stopped, and he pushed the dear child off the window. With that, the mother charged at us again, ramming her entire strength into us, the head coming right into me, right at me. The doe wouldn't stop. She had nothing to live for. We had killed her child. And I looked at my dolly, and I knew we did wrong. My father reached into the glove compartment, and he took out a .45. He told me to get down. He fired the gun over and over and over again, too many times. A deer should only die once. But it was such a little gun, my father would later explain. Daddy put the gun back into the glove compartment and muttered, "They're not even worth getting out of the car for. Buzzards will be here before long. Wish it'd been a buck, 'cause mercy we'd have us some horn. Only a woman and a child. Probably a female, it was so slow. Only a female, a mother, to get herself killed that way. That was my second lesson in economics. Man is worth something dead, too. And when we returned home on the same road, my daddy tried to teach me something by saying, animals don't have feelings. They only have instinct. And we passed the child deer who had dragged its body towards its mama. And I cried, "Oh, Daddy! Oh, Daddy! Let's help them! They're still alive!" And Daddy said, "Don't worry. They'll be dead in a few minutes." And then he drove right over them both. Last night I heard crying. It was a piercing cry, and at the foot of my bed I awoke, and in my room were hundreds and hundreds of women. They're all crying, they're all weeping, all marching, they're all rallying, and I saw the Virgin Mary, and she carried a sign that read pro-choice, and I saw Cleopatra, and she wore a t-shirt that read vaginal pride, and I saw Joan of Arc, and she wore a button that said the Pope is Satan. And I saw Josephine Baker, and she held a sign that read, U.S. out of my uterus. And in the rally was Eve, and she held a banner that read, God is a woman. And then I saw my Aunt Mandy, and she was screaming. And I went up to my Aunt Mandy and I said, I'm so sorry that you died of cancer of the uterus. And she said, child, I didn't die of cancer of the uterus. I died with a gag in my throat with this illegal abortion. When you die like I died, they don't even let you scream. Bled to death I did. Rats ate my insides out. But I was only 50. I was only 50. And then I saw the spirit of my childhood friend Pam, who died by her own hands. She just didn't have the money to go to New York City in 1973 for a legal abortion. So she took a can of Drano and she poured it inside her vagina so she could burn it out. But she didn't know any better, 'cause she was only 12. She was only 12. Let me tell you about parental consent. Let me tell you about parental consent. Let me tell you about babies dying, where babies die in Harlem at higher rates than many third world countries, and the far right wants women to return to a patriarchal disorder. Well, we women aren't going back. To our only choice is to clean up after men. Our choice is to become president, to become pope. Whether these male control freaks like it or not, we're gonna feminize this planet. Baby, let me show you hysteria. Baby, let me show you out of control, crazy, hell-bent, over-emotional, PMS'd, irrational women united in rage to overthrow this male control of our lives. No one's controlling me. No one's controlling me. Say it, sister. No one's controlling my body. We've been raped. We've been discriminated against. We've been oppressed. We've been persecuted. We've been controlled. Men are not controlling us any longer. And the spirits of women are remembering when men would gag women as they perform their hatchet job. And the men would say, I'll kill you if you scream. But this time we're screaming. This time we're screaming. This time we're screaming. I'd just given my last dollar away when the barefoot young woman approached me for money. She was pregnant, filthy with sores all over her body, baby protruding out of her, smelling and sick. It was rush hour, and hundreds of people walked over her with their visible screen of protection. I walked by her, and it hit me, the despair in our society, our culture, our city, and that despair hit my belly, and I cramped into sickness. All the grief of wandering souls lost just became too much. My shield down, puking with other homeless souls. I am this culture. I am this country. I am this sickness. I don't want to leave my house no more. Someone's talking to me again, but all that's on my mind is the results of my HIV test. Someone's talking to me again, but all that's on my mind is the family living in the bus stop on Hollywood Boulevard. Someone's talking to me again, but all that's on my mind is the feeding tube removed from my friend's chest. Someone's talking to me again, but all that's on my mind is the results of my HIV test. I look into your face, broken and bleeding and pus eyes out. Sorry, man. Money went to baby and dead woman's soul. No kidding. $50 means nothing in this town. I feel like I'm fighting a war. You are. I feel like I'm fighting a war. You are. I've been poor, but not as poor as you are now. I've been sick, but not as sick as you are now. I've been dead, but not as dead as you are now. Take my money. Take my soul. It isn't worth it to live being witness to this suffering sometimes. I just can't move. Waiting for the dragon to stop breathing its fire, accepting that maybe that dragon won't ever go away. I feel nothing but impending doom, for I live in a society that has rules for certain standards of behavior. I wish I could live in a society where two male lovers, where two women lovers could display public affection without the fear of being killed. I wish two men or two women could have a baby without the look in your face that it's some kind of perversion. I go into your liberal home, your college town, your Gap clothes, your Vanity Fair existence of brie and blush chablis, but you don't trust me with your children. I am only an accessory to your surface life to invite to parties, and I notice how you always have paper cups and plates ready for me when I enter your home, and I know the real reason why after I used your restroom on the first floor, you and the rest of the family always use the one upstairs. And of course I noticed when I spend the night at my sister's, the professor of human resources, when I visit my brother, the doctor. Yet they all remove toothbrushes and shavers from the bathrooms. And you never let my nieces or nephews come visit me. But after a few too many drinks, your mask slips more and you say, I know you'll understand, but we don't want our children to be attracted to your influences. What you are saying is that you don't want your children growing up to be a queer, a fairy, a dyke, a person with a lisp, a queen, a poofter, a butch dyke lesbo. I hate protected liberalism and its safe-covered homophobic putrid ways. Sometimes I just can't move, waiting for the dragon to stop breathing its fire, accepting that maybe that dragon won't ever go away. I walk through this town, and I just see everything as a disease. I see cars as giant carcasses in deserts of lice and misunderstood. I see buildings as potential sharks sucking in the sky so I suffocate. That's what living is about for me. That's what trying to survive means to my life. So don't tell me about your boring problems, of your legal weddings that I'm denied, of your divorces that I'm denied, of your church that I'm excommunicated from, and in the next bite of tofu and alfalfa sprouts, You talk about your hair color or staying on a diet. Sometimes I pretend those are my problems because it's so relieving to have such mundane problems. Because this week I've had 3 friends die. And when I told you in my hushed voice, for uttering their name was even that painful, your idea of comfort was, it shouldn't hurt that much for you knew they were going to die. It must get easier to mourn with the more that die. Who's going to take their apartment? Yeah, he's dead. Oh, that's too bad. So many are going to say without even looking into my eyes, business as usual, the show must go on is such a bitter song to my ears. Yeah, he's dead. There's no one to bury him. He's getting a pauper's grave. He's dead. No family, no mother, no father, no sister, no brother to accept him as God's creature. Sometimes I just can't move, waiting for the dragon to stop breathing its fire, accepting that maybe that dragon just won't ever go away. Yesterday I called to say goodbye to my friend. He has AIDS and decided to take his own life. Let me say this again. My friend has AIDS and last night I think he took his own life. Let me say this again. My friend lost 45 pounds last month and last night I think he took his own life. Let me say this again. My friend has no reason to live, but he has a reason to die. He couldn't control the anger. He couldn't control the depression. He couldn't control the suffering. He couldn't control the hatred. He couldn't control the country. He couldn't control the government. He couldn't control his own life, but he could control his own death. AIDS wouldn't kill him. He'd kill AIDS. He couldn't kill Helms, but he could kill himself. He didn't want to die like Rock Hudson. He wanted to live like Sylvia Plath. Today, I pick up the phone, but I just can't call to see if he did it. I said to him, please let me see you one more time. I'm here in Chicago. I just can't call to see if he did it, if he got the second all, if he ground it up and shot it up. Or maybe he used a gun. Or maybe he used a knife. No, my friend is not a violent man. You see, I don't want to be here. I want to be on East 2nd Street in Bowery pleading with my friend not to take his life. But he is so weak, he cannot speak, he cannot think, he can only feel. It's like the way I pleaded with the world to save my daddy. It's like the way I should have pleaded with Ethel. But he sliced his own wrist and then bled to death in the hot bath water, but I didn't see the signs. Although I'm always privileged with being given signs and hindsights, I just don't want to be here. I want to be with my friend. When everyone was healthy, when we all had dreams, when we all had destinies, suicide is not such a great way to die. Yeah, I'll tell you about art. Yeah, let me tell you about performance art. Yeah, let me tell you about art. Ethel had AIDS. Let's make some blood prints off of Ethel's wrists. Let's make some photos of my friend killing himself, blow up the photo, and put some goddamn text on it that says dead, 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 and make an addition of 10. Yeah, let me tell you about art. Today, I find myself in Edgewater, standing in the same spot where 2 Chicago pigs followed me out of a bar when I was 21, and just as I got to Bryn Mawr and Broadway, they stopped my car and told me that I was speeding, which I wasn't, told me I was drunk, which I wasn't. And then they said they could straighten everything out if we could go to the Thorndale Beach and do some hanky-panky. I'm not telling you what happened next. I'm not telling you what happened next. But I don't like the color blue, baby. I don't need no videotape. I got my own memories. I don't need no videotape. I got my own memories. Today, I hear that it's donut day in Chicago, and I get a fear up me whenever I hear donuts. 'Cause when I hear donuts, all I think of are Chicago cops eating donuts, and doing nothing while I'm attacked by 15 men. And when I screamed to the police for help from across the street, they threw me a donut and said, "That's what a girl gets for coming out at night." I don't need no videotape. I got my own memories. I don't need no videotape. I got my own memories. I'm in Rogers Park, standing outside the door where my ex-boyfriend parked for days, and one day I let him in by mistake. Later, when I reported it to the police, that my ex-boyfriend raped me after I let him in, policeman said, "Doesn't sound like a crime to me, or we'd have to arrest every man in sight." Oh, baby, I don't need no videotape. I got my own memories. Oh, baby, I don't need no videotape. I got my own memories. My friend says he's going to take his own life because he wants me to remember him well, not sick. He said, "Karen, if I have my way, I'm going to be coming back in a more evolved state. I don't need no videotape. I got my own memories."
I cannot be effective. I cannot change the world, she said. If I cannot even clean up my room, how can I change the world? Last night you died again for me. There is nothing to live for. I see your last performance all too clearly on an island inhabited by souls of gray and prejudice. You were always the other. To your parents, they never acknowledged your true, real self. They tolerated. They left you to God. We all knew you were great. We all held you as our monarch. There was nothing to live for, but there was something to die for. AIDS wouldn't kill you. You'd kill AIDS. And on your final voyage, of your body floating in its own blood, arms sliced at wrist, the tainted blood flowing out of our genius. When you say he had no other choice, I pray for your soul. Suicide is not such a great way to die. Suicide is a big price to pay.
I keep thinking, for I need to drown out the sound of your flesh cut. I keep on saying it's all right, because if we don't, we are all doomed. How can this world be so cruel? How can this world be so cruel?
What killed you was looking at you as bad bringer of disease, a deviant. And one learns to live in a world that makes you a deviant, an untouchable, so you become invisible, not to get in the way. For if you don't, they'll just beat the queer out of you. And if you come out, they'll deny you work. That'll get the queer out of you. Deny you legal rights. That'll shake the queer out of you. Deny you a civil marriage. Force never to be legally a couple. Your love is never quite good enough. That'll depress the queer out of you. Deny you recognition. Force the mask, the costume, so you can never speak freely from your heart. So it'll destroy your queer heart, but what does it matter? We've been taught that queers don't have hearts. They only live for deviancy. And after you died, I relive all of my friends' deaths over and over and over again till it's all one big death. And I remember when you sent me the amaryllis, a flower that grows without water, the flowers you send me, the poems you write me, the stories you told me of Pekin, Illinois, secrets I'll never tell. But when you told me that I was your sunshine, I always looked at you as a brighter star. But I never knew you felt the darkness in your poems. But when I saw you, you were always the actor. But what could I say when I asked what's wrong in a letter? You said 60 friends dead, Karen. We all know how it affected you because it affects us, but you made us forget on stage. You always came to me in letters. I made you remember, except I ignored the signs. I should have been better, but you're such a clever man, an actor as good as my daddy. You both made me feel, so even though you wrote me signs, I didn't know what to say. I'm 60 friends dead, Karen, even though I'm the daughter of a murderer, the sister of mania, the child of depression, even though there is death on my hands, even though I believe in life after death. My crime is that I have courage and I tried to give you hope when I knew you lived despair instead. Instead, I should have let you cry those million tears. But the clown never cries. The man is the woman. The actor denies his own script. I wish I could have showed you tears. You didn't need to be so strong. You did not need to be so strong. Fall apart. Fall apart, fall apart, fall apart at the seams. But instead you sliced your own wrist. And when you feel you don't have the strength, that you just can't take it anymore, it's just all too much, that you just don't want to get involved anymore, that it's just easier to be quiet, easier to slip by. You just can't take it anymore. You just think of Ethel's wrists. You just think of 2 brief lives. You just count them in your mind. There aren't enough fingers. And you just sit back in your own comforts. And you just wait it out. You just wait it out. You just wait it out. And you count your money and count your dead friends. And you just wait it out. I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm sure I hadn't slept. And I take out my old phone books and I start going through all the old names I knew. And then I take my Rolodex, and I go through the A's, and I go through my old friends' names, my dead friends' names, my deceased friends' names. I just can't take 'em out. I just can't take 'em out and throw them in the trash. I just can't take 'em out and throw them in the trash. Sometimes I pick up the phone. I dial your number, ask for your name. Disconnected, a new person speaks. Sometimes I pretend I'm talking to my old dead friends as if the phone is ringing in heaven. Sometimes I leave my Rolodex open to your phone number, because for a moment I just might forget. There is no ritual that makes me feel any better. Praying just doesn't do it. Praying just doesn't work. Working just doesn't make me forget. The higher power just never shows up. Letting go doesn't work because I ain't got nothing to hold on to. I wanna hold on to you, but crying helps. Crying helps. It's best at night, when I can't watch any more TV, and the streets are silent, except for paper trucks with tomorrow's news. The clock ticks, and the tears swell. I'll light you a candle. I'll say you a prayer. Baby, we're past hope, past hope, past hope. Sometimes I dream that we're all alive, and that we're eating big meals with raisins and almond stuffing. Sometimes I make beautiful paintings with your name hidden in the design. Sometimes I embroider your name in the soles of my socks or in my handkerchief, but that just seems like another century. Crying helps. Crying helps. It's only a dream. Only a dream. I remember when you told me you were sick. Not just a cold, not just the flu. We drank 2 bottles of wine. We wanted to get drunk, but somehow we didn't. He knew it'd be the last time he'd see me. He knew it'd be the last time I'd see him. We wouldn't be able to go to Paris together. We wouldn't be able to make our film together. He wouldn't be there for me anymore. I wouldn't be there for him anymore. We couldn't tell each other secrets anymore. All those experiences lost somehow. But I can dream, we dream to a time when life was full of promises of growing old. But then I just cry myself to sleep. I just cry myself to sleep. I just cry myself to sleep, whispering, "Oh, Johnny, oh, Johnny, oh, Johnny, I miss you."
Devoted Heart received the letter from Aunt Enid. She took everything into consideration. Devoted Heart had failing health, the kind that doesn't get worse. It just shows your body doesn't work anymore. Devoted noticed 3 things that day. 1, birds began nesting on her porch. Blue jays and wrens, who are normally enemies, were getting along now. 2,
A man in line next to her at the post office was born in the same small town as Janesville, Wisconsin, as her father. 3. She craved the smell of lavender and newborn puppies. Devoted Heart read the list of towns insightfully, and only one town affected her in an emotional way. It was Bloomsburg, just outside of Milton, where her own father had hit the deer when she was a little girl. Devoted Heart went to her safety deposit box and took out $25, and she placed a personal in the paper of Bloomsburg. The personal read as follows: Read towns with interest, open to all suggestions, Devoted Heart. Aunt Enid saw the personal while she was in the town laundromat, and she knew that this was the sign she was waiting for. She mailed the quilt to Devoted Heart first class, wrapped in lavender tissue. The box was from a clothing store in Janesville, Wisconsin. When Devoted Heart received the package from the post office, her heart jumped a beat. She carried it to the porch. It was a spring afternoon, a Wednesday at 3:30 to be exact, and Devoted sat on her porch examining the quilt. She put her hand on the fabric and felt all the lives suffered. Devoted cried and cried right there on the porch in her rocking chair and fell asleep with the blanket on her. Only she never awoke again. The birds flew down to Devoted and sat on her body. They began taking apart the quilt thread by thread to make their nest. This spring was to be a happy spring for the nesting birds, with homes of flannel and silks and wool for their eggs to be born. And here the story ends, except for one last note from Aunt Enid. Clutched in Devoted Heart's hand were the words, "Small gestures that make the world better." Last night I dreamed that a huge skyscraper crashed, collapsed. It was filled with artists and art from all continents, from all cultures, all over the world. It was a UN of creativity, of expression. Every artist was given a plot to create a work of art. Now I associate, and I see that every artist was given a grave to create a work of art. And then the building came tumbling down. And then the building came tumbling down. And then the building came tumbling down. That skyscraper was you. That skyscraper was you. Somewhere here is a message. Somewhere here is a metaphor. Somewhere here is a cosmic web that makes sense of a terrible time. I stay up nights contemplating this, but nothing, oh, nothing ever comes of it.